Good afternoon, y'all. It's a pleasure to be here with you in Pittsburgh today. Thank you to our moderators, our technical team in the back, and to NACIS for inviting me here today. My name is Michael McNeil. I'm the Technology Director for the St. Tammany Parish Assessor's Office in Covington, Louisiana. And for the past 11 months, I've been exploring the fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence and map making. Before I get started with the presentation, some housekeeping. There are some links throughout the presentation today. So if you want to follow along on your devices and visit some of these sources, you can access the slides by using the QR code on the screen. I'll also post a link to the slides in the Slack channel after. Today, I'm excited to share insights on how generative AI like ChatGPT can revolutionize the way we approach our mapping projects, especially when we use AI to help us with what is the hardest part of any mapping project, in my opinion, the getting started part. But before we dive into the presentation, just a quick show of hands, how many of you are already familiar with, ChatGPT and generative AI? Okay, now keep your hands up if you're using ChatGPT on a regular basis for your projects. Okay, interesting. Let's explore that a little further. So I like to start presentations usually with words of encouragement or affirmation for my own nerves. So just something to set the tone for the next 10 minutes or so. This is something that I read this year in a book by Kevin Kelly, who is a prominent voice in the technology space. Kelly writes that over the long term, the future is decided by optimists. To be an optimist, you don't have to ignore the multitude of problems we create. You just have to imagine how much our ability to solve problems improves. Now, I'm sure that all of you in this room are thinking about the future a lot these days. We all are. This line of thinking was admittedly a difficult thing for me to read because I recognize that I am often inclined towards pessimism and skepticism and distrust. And if you are too, then you know as well as I do that it's not always a pleasant thing to think about the future. But there is hope. This is not going to be depressing. Okay? Optimism is the harder choice, yes, sometimes, but it is a choice. And knowing that, you can practice optimism. You can choose it, even in the face of discouraging odds. The Stoics taught that when you come to a fork in the road, you should choose the more difficult path. Optimism is that path in our day and age. So with all that in mind, this year I set out to challenge myself to practice more optimism about the future and to do so in a particular space. Technology, specifically generative artificial intelligence technology. So what about ChatGPT? OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public nearly a year ago, and it's been, popular to say the least. You can see that here via Google Trends that it did not take long for ChatGPT to reach peak popularity in internet searches after its public debut last November. Likewise, then, perhaps it is no coincidence that my own productivity at work also reached new peaks after incorporating the uber-popular AI into my own workflows. This highly scientific graph shows how much more I've been able to accomplish after the debut of ChatGPT. It is based on a thorough analysis of how much work it felt like I was accomplishing in the months pre and post ChatGPT. In other words, it's based entirely on my gut. In all seriousness, though, using ChatGPT at the small government shop where I work certainly improved our performance and efficiency during the past year. There's no doubt in my mind that if our productivity was seriously studied and analyzed, that there would be a marked improvement in throughput after the incorporation of ChatGPT into our cartography, GIS, and administrative work. So how can geospatial professionals use ChatGPT exactly? Well, this looks like an opportunity. Carto ran a poll asking you what you thought was the most challenging part of working with geospatial data, and you said ETL, or the extract, transform, load process. You hate ETL. That's a perfect space for something like ChatGPT. So let's see how that could look with a quick demonstration. For this exercise, I made a Pittsburgh-related map using ChatGPT to help with data ETL. The map was inspired by John Nelson's 1-minute map hack series. big fan. In this particular tutorial, John shows you how to create an origin destination map from a spreadsheet using the XY align tool in ArcGIS Pro. John maps the college football recruiting footprint of the Michigan Wolverines in the 1-minute demo. So we're going to do something similar for our map with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm feeling a little subconscious about using our and we after watching Lizzie's presentation. Okay, so let's get into it with ChatGPT. Obviously, I don't expect you to keep up with that, so I'm going to open a link to a chat that I use to make this map. Okay, so first, we get started with a basic question regarding some data that we want to map. In our use case, we're going to map the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers for their last Super Bowl championship in 2009. And ChatGPT, just answers and tells you, all right, here's everybody who played on that team. Okay, so that looks good. Now we want to format the data so we can get into our map. So let's ask ChatGPT, how do we get a CSV file out of this? So ChatGPT shows us an example of a CSV file. But I am short on time, so I need it to do the whole thing. So don't just show me an example, give me the whole list, which ChatGPT obliges. Okay, so that first list, what we did was we looked at the birthplace of all the players, and after looking at our data, we didn't want to map where they were born. We actually wanted to see kind of where they came from college, sort of like, college is a feeder program for the NFL. So we wanted to see, like, if there was a geographical distribution of, where the 2009 Steelers went to college. So we refine our question and ask ChatGPT to change course a little bit. And that is what we were looking for. So now what we need to finish the spreadsheet is we need to know the X and Y's of where all these colleges are located. That's part of the process. So we're going to ask ChatGPT for help there too, because we're short on time. So we're going to ask it to geocode those college cities and states for us and add it to the spreadsheet. And so again, ChatGPT kind of shows us an example with one particular college, city, and state. So we're going to keep asking it to do more work for us. Now we've got a loop, and this is one of the big pros for me with using ChatGPT is when you are working with your own data, and you can use a tool like this, ChatGPT, you can feed it the exact, column names and specifics about your data, and then it will respond to you with those things in mind so that your code can just automatically, it's plug and play at that point. So we got to that point now, and we have the looping mechanism to add all the X and Y's for all the players. And finally, near the end, I get an error when I run my Python script. That's because I am a tinkerer, and I change column names in the spreadsheet manually, and ChatGPT is going to help me recognize that I made that mistake. And so then I can go into my code and fix that. So now we have a working CSV file with all the data that we need to complete the map. This probably took 5 minutes. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, there we go. Boom, we have a map, right? Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that. Okay, so there we have it, the finished product, our map of the 2009 Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers, which shows us where each of the players on that championship roster played football in college. ChatGPT helped us source, organize, create, and troubleshoot the data for the map, and perhaps taught us a few things in the process. Okay, now it's caveat time, right? There is a lot to think about when considering ChatGPT and other generative AI solutions. Here's a list of pros and cons as I see it so far with generative AI. The most significant pros in my experience are 1, improved barrier to entry when starting projects, and 2, improved efficiency. We kind of saw both of those demonstrated today, and both of these are crucial, especially for smaller shops like where I work, that are increasingly asked to do more with less resources. Using ChatGPT is like having another half a person on your team, in my estimation. As far as cons go, you still have to fact check and QC the work by ChatGPT, obviously. It does have a tendency to make things up. While it is really quick to pump out materials, there still is a fair amount of post-processing also to make it right and to make it look and sound like it came from you or your organization. There also is the issue with how ChatGPT and other generative AIs are trained. That was one of the big sticking points in the Hollywood writer's strike recently, and something to keep an eye on going forward. One final thing to note, and this is kind of a big one that I saved for the end, another significant pro, in my opinion, is I don't think you have to worry about ChatGPT taking your job. It's the latest in a long line of tools created by humans that need humans in order for them to function. IBM released the results of a study this past summer that found that nearly 90% of business leaders today believe that employees are more likely to be augmented by generative AI than replaced by it. However, that does lead us to one of the cons. While ChatGPT itself might not take your job, other people who use ChatGPT might take your job. Something to consider. So keeping that in mind, let's look at one more study and consider some takeaways from it. So 35-5, what is that? That was not the Steelers' winning score of that Super Bowl. Instead, it's from a recent study whose authors wanted to know who comes up with more innovative ideas, MBA students or ChatGPT. This was in the Wall Street Journal. The study compared ideas created by MBA students from the Wharton School against those created by ChatGPT and found 3 significant things. 1, that ChatGPT is faster at generating ideas. That's not a big surprise. It's very fast. 2, that ChatGPT generates better ideas by 7 to 9 percentage points, and better in the study was measured by how well the ideas would perform in the market based on consumer surveys. And 3, that among the top 10% of all ideas in the pool, ChatGPT generated 35 out of 40 exceptional ideas. So 35-5, ChatGPT wins. So what does this mean for us moving forward? The authors of the study shared 2 big takeaways for us to consider. 1, that every innovator should develop the habit of complementing their own ideas with the ones created by the technology. And 2, that a human-machine collaboration will deliver better products and services to the market and improve solutions for whatever society needs in the future. So by operating optimistically when it comes to an emerging technology like ChatGPT and other generative AIs, it's easier to imagine that our ability to solve problems will improve. And by extension, then, it is easier to imagine a better future. Thank you for your attention this afternoon.